The only thing I felt was my hollow body repeatedly being bashed to the ground. If I opened my eyes, he'd go straight for the face. If I moved a single part of my body, he'd beat harder. If I was anything but alive, he'd go for my mother and brother next. So I laid there as his punching bag as he stood over me with his fists alternating like machinery. Left, right, until he was done. The guy beating me was my mom's coworker, where they both worked as a food prep at a plant. He wasn't always like this, and in fact, he used to spend time with us doing fun activities and taking us to new places, becoming the father I never had. When I was still in first grade, my mom and her boyfriend got married, and we moved into a trailer together in the same town where my grandparents lived. I thought to myself then, yes, I have a complete family now. But soon after, my now stepfather began showing a completely different side of him. At times, my stepfather was a loving, caring, and kind father, but other times, he was a monster. When the monster in him came out, he would show so much anger and rage that it wasn't long before he would beat my mother and me. When I was in second grade, we moved to the next town over, and my stepfather did not want anyone to visit us and told us to keep people out of our business. My mom and I were scared of him, so we would lie to everyone and pretend that everything was okay. It didn't take long until he started beating me. During those times, he'd do it to control and punish my mom. Even the most trivial things would irritate him and bring out the beast in him. One time, he threw the remote control at my face because I walked in front of the TV while he was watching. I had a black eye the next day and thought to myself, if I went to school like this, it would be the end of it. But I couldn't bring myself to do that. So I skipped school until the bruising around my eye was gone. Amongst all the dread and sadness, we did have one great thing that happened. My baby brother was born. It felt good to have some joy back in our life, and for a split time, everything was how it was supposed to be. But when my brother was a year old, for some unknown reason, my stepfather was enraged and was about to beat my brother, who was playing near him on the floor. I quickly yelled at him, so to shift his attention and rage towards me and to hit me instead. He did. One night the phone was turned off because my mom had forgotten to pay the phone bill. Again, in my stepfather's rage, he beat me brutally. I felt the dull thuds against my body and could hear the hits against my head as he continuously pounded my body against the floor. Every blow was painful. Every hit he made, I heard my body broke. The next day, I had open cuts and bruises all over my face and body, and I felt like I was run over by a truck. He told me not to go to school, but I went anyway. The principal saw me that day, and that was it. They called the police and Child Protective Services. They took me out of the home and sent me to my grandparents, who weren't too far. Yes, I didn't have a complete family again, but it was better than being scared to make the wrong move or live in fear. It was better than being beaten to the ground simply because I crossed his path. I thought the worst was over because of the problem to all of this. My stepfather was out of the picture. I thought I was saved, but they weren't. My mother and brother were living with that monster, and I didn't know how they were doing. I couldn't see or speak with them. I began having nightmares, crying every night, worrying about them. It took nearly 6 years for my mom to find the courage to leave him, and for me and my brother to be truly reunited. It didn't matter what image of a family was. I was only happy to be with them again. Still, I kept thinking about my stepfather, and I couldn't get him off my mind. I looked him up on Facebook when I was at work one day and randomly sent him a friend request. I can't say what made me do it, or why I did it, but it felt like something I should. I messaged him and told him I forgave him, not knowing if he'd reply. My anxiety shot up when I saw he had read the message, and instantly I had flashbacks and shadows of him hitting me all those years ago. The smallest things, like walking in front of him while he was watching TV, or the times I drew his attention away from my mom and brother and to me instead. I nearly had a panic attack until he messaged me back. He seemed very happy to read my message and replied with the kindest messages anyone could write. After speaking with him for a few days, I encouraged my younger brother to do the same so that he could get to know the other half of his family. During those messages, he had apologized for his past wrongs to us, and I learned that my stepfather had lost his mom dad and sister at the age of 4 and had been sent to live with relatives. Growing up, he only knew loss and never felt love and warmth from anyone. And so I began to believe the nice in him was who he really wanted to be. And the monster that we experienced was something that had been created by unfortunate circumstance. I felt reluctant anger, but the moment I forgave him, I felt like a poison had been removed from my body. My opinion became very important to my stepfather, and I think by doing it, it made him realize that these cycles could be broken and that he didn't need to harbor all the pain he'd carried all these years. He would call me and talk to me about his problems, and it sounds weird, but it felt good helping that man that once hurt me and my family so much. There are 2 lessons here. 1. If you are in a similar situation, tell someone right away and keep telling until someone listens. 2. Give forgiveness even if it feels impossible. I'm not saying you have to be friends with those who have wronged you, but if you can truly forgive them and let it go, it is the best thing you can do for your mental and emotional well-being. Anger, resentment, and hate are poison. By keeping that within us, it only poisons ourselves, stopping us from enjoying the moments of life that deserve appreciation.